How about them Irish?
I can't take it anymore. I need a national championship.
This is the Four Horsemen Podcast.
The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame sink the midshipmen by about 1 million to 7 or 14. Does it really matter? It was utter ass-kicking. And to make things better, Brian Kelly's LSU loses a big game down at Kyle Field, just like this podcast said they would. Welcome to the Four Horsemen. I'm Dylan, joined by Steve as always. And Steve, how are you doing on this fine evening?
I am doing much better than Big Game Brian, that's for certain.
Is that because, unlike Big Game Brian, you can win when it matters sometimes?
Sometimes, especially in the gambling game, and we'll get an update on those rankings and everything later. So we're hot on Pick'em still. It's a good time. It's a good time in Four Horsemen land. The Fighting Irish are, what are we, 7-1, 6-1? It doesn't matter. We only have one loss. We're in the driver's seat right now. We're on the inside track for the playoffs. Things are good for Notre Dame. Things are good for the Four Horsemen podcast. Things are not good for the LSU Tigers and their big bitch coach.
I love it. And you know what? Couldn't have happened to a better guy. It's not about Brian Kelly, really. As much as fun as it is to kind of shit on him right now, the reason I bring it up is, of course, because Texas A&M, an opponent of ours, got a huge win. So the Aggies are now first place in the SEC. They're ranked 10th in the AP poll. Notre Dame came in ranked 8th because people did have the common sense to keep Notre Dame ahead of a team they had a head-to-head victory against. And that's big for us. Texas A&M has become the only saving grace other than Army and Navy on the schedule. And we're going to get into it. The playoff's going to be really tight this year to get in. So we'll wrap that up eventually. Let's talk about this football game, Steve. 52-14. Riley Leonard, at least 2 passing touchdowns. I think 1 rushing touchdown. I think Love had 2 rushing touchdowns. Navy was, I don't even want to say they were forced to fumble. They just inexplicably let the ball hit them and dropped it about 7 times that game. Doesn't change the outcome of the game at all, but it certainly made it worse for the midshipmen. What were your thoughts on them, and what were your thoughts on our performance?
Yeah, this looked like the Navy of old, right? There was certainly some doubts coming into everything. Kind of made it seem everyone was talking them up like they're this big, awesome opponent, and that this was going to be a tight game, and it just seemed like one of those like mid-2000s matchups where we would just dominate them. I'm thinking, what was it, Lewis Nix on the fumble 6 that he had back in the day? Was that in Ireland? Yeah. We kicked their ass at Aviva Stadium. I don't know. It was fun. It was great. We got out with no major injuries, which is always a big one against any of the service academies. And I don't want to speak too soon because obviously, we are going to have Army coming up later in the year, but healthy, blowout. It was fun. We like having fun.
This new mic's going to require a little bit of practice. I'll put a clip there. So we expected Notre Dame to cover, but we didn't. Neither of us expected anything to the level we got on Saturday, which was, what's the math on that? 40-plus point blowout? Something ridiculous. We were expecting kind of a low-scoring game. I picked 27, I think, to 10. You picked a 17-point margin as well. And we just really saw an ass-kicking. It's as simple as that. We were better than them. We played disciplined football. The offense looked really, really good. The defense, I was so proud of how those young guys played. And what more could you want from this team, right? We can't erase the NIU loss, man. We can't. There's no going back. But could this team have played any better going forward? I would say the Miami-Ohio game is maybe the only one where you would have liked a little bit more from the team. but they have handled their business, and they've blown these teams out. So I look at Notre Dame right now, and you got to wonder if this team is capable of going further. And with the schedule remaining, Steve, we've got a bye week this week. We've got Florida State, which I will be going to. I have paid premium American dollars for that, and Florida State has given me a 1-7 team coming into Notre Dame. But if you guys are listening, please stop by Tailgate. We'll be happy to meet with you, chat, talk football. But after FSU, Steve, we've got Virginia. We play Army at Yankee Stadium, and the Yankees are down 3-0 in the World Series. No reason for me to bring that up as a Red Sox fan, but I did anyway. And then, last but not least, USC at the Coliseum. This is a very winnable stretch of games. It's by no means easy, but Notre Dame could be looking at 11-1 here. So, did you feel with the performance we saw this week that that's in the cards for us? And do you have any concerns about it? Because I, for the life of me, can't think of any negatives to take away from this football game.
Yeah, like you said, we cannot erase the past, and that's fine. But in the last 6 games, Notre Dame is 6-0 with an average margin of victory of 31.33 points. So any team that's winning games on average by 31 points, 5 scores, you're going to put yourself in contention. And the remaining schedule still looks manageable. Florida State, which originally was a scary team, as you had mentioned, they're simply just not so scary anymore. It looks like they're starting their true freshman, Luke Kromerak, or whatever the hell his stupid not going to win name is. And then, the rest of the way, okay, there is Army, and that's something to stick a pin in. But I think as we saw with the Navy game, that there's still a separation in athletes when it comes to Notre Dame and the service academies, and that's just going to be natural, and that's fine. Virginia, ACC opponent, it is what it is. You play your schedule, and then there's USC, 4-4. They're fighting for their lives. Now, of course, we expect the USC game to be tight, especially since it's on the road. It's in LA to end the season, as it is every other year. But the schedule looks like it should be managed all the way out. These remaining 4 games, 11-1 Notre Dame, obviously a playoff lock. So knock on all the wood that there is that we do finish 11-1 and do handle this schedule with no hiccups. But we've always talked about, I think, throughout the season, myself and you, this Notre Dame team is good. Are they great? It has kind of been the pressing question, and we knew that they were good enough to get to January, but how far beyond in January do you go? In regards to these playoff matchups, are you a first round exit? Doubtful, just because we're probably going to be a mid-tier seed, 5, 6, 7 seed with a home game, which we're currently on the inside track for. So we probably get that first game in, but then once you reach the quarterfinals and beyond, are you built enough for that? Or are we going to be kind of more of the same of what our previous playoff experience and New Year's Six experiences have been? I don't know for certain. I think I have kind of more of an inkling of where we're trending, but Dylan, I spoke for a little bit there. I'll let you jump in and throw some reactions in.
7-1, 51-14 victory, 37-point margin. I know we have battered Notre Dame syndrome, where we're just used to it not being good enough and the other shoe's going to fall at any moment now. But we've got 6 consecutive weeks, if not 5, of domination, of just beating teams. And the Louisville game was a 1-score game, but that really shouldn't have been, with the way Notre Dame could have put that out early, and of course Louisville scores late to make it look closer than it was. This is a football team that's ready to go. I heard somebody say great football teams are when one player gets injured and the rest of the guys can just carry the load together. And are we not seeing that right now along the defensive line and to an extent in the secondary with the first game post Benjamin Morrison? What are your thoughts on that? Have we, I don't know, maybe, I don't want to say replace them at 100% capacity, but I feel like these injuries aren't looking as bad as maybe we thought they'd be when they happened.
Not so far. And again, we didn't exactly play a juggernaut passing offense, so it's yet to be seen. I think USC to end the season is going to be a great, kind of a great indicator. Miller Moss is a good quarterback. He's not great, but he's going to throw the ball around the yard, and we'll see how we hold up on the road. But at the very least, everything is looking promising. And I'm not going to compare ourselves at the moment to Alabama over the past 15 years. So I'm not making the comparison. I'm just comparing and contrasting. I just said I'm not making the comparison, and then I'm comparing and contrasting. I'm an idiot. I'm contrasting us against them and just saying, Alabama over the past 15 years, just because of Saban's dominance, anytime they've had guys go down with injuries, you had like a 5-star freshman that would, loop right in and step in and fill the role. And it's more of the same. It was more winning and dominance for them. So far, Notre Dame has had that depth, even though we were very unproven in a lot of positions, and there was a lot of youth after those initial injuries, like on the defensive line, at the corner position, on the offensive line. We've had guys that have stepped up. Then they're early on in their careers. Some of them were kind of high level recruits. Some of them were mid-tier recruits that are playing, punching above their weight, so to speak. But everything has gone pretty well so far. And I don't know if that's us being masked by our strength of schedule, although, again, we've showed up in the games where we've needed to. And, yeah, I think it's been promising so far.
I just get a kick out of these Texas A&M fans who are like, well, our team is so much different now, we should be ranked ahead of you. And it's like, have you not seen this Notre Dame offense from week 1 to week 8? It's the same thing applies here. Riley Leonard, on 3 today, Steve, has Riley Leonard is tied for 9th on the Heisman list. Can you believe that after NIU, where we were calling for Steve Angeli to be in? I still think rightfully so. However, Leonard has proven to us, which we also thought was possible, that injuries and meshing with the team would improve week to week, and best case scenario has happened. And I'm okay with Riley Leonard being our quarterback. I don't think he's 9th on the Heisman list by any shot, but look at how this team has improved. That's where I'm coming from. This is, there's not many teams out there have looked that great this year. Every team's been flawed. Georgia has lost a game to Alabama. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt and should have lost to another team maybe. Texas has lost a huge game to Georgia. Oregon barely beat Ohio State. Ohio State barely got by Nebraska. Oregon almost lost to Boise State. I know there's a lot of transitive property there, but the point I'm making is everyone has looked flawed at some point in this season, and it looked like we got ours out of the way. Now, like you said, we're masking potentially behind strength of schedule. That's a fair point. We'll have to wait and see. But I feel pretty good about this team, and I was wondering, Steve, for you, who is your horseman of the week in a game where we've scored 51 points?
Hard to pick just one guy, but and again, this is kind of just taking the obvious, but it has to be Riley Leonard, and to give him his roses where it's at. Yeah, I mean, he's come into his own. He's found his comfort. He's made the scrambles and thought with his feet when it's appropriate to think with his feet. And then there's also been times he's scrambled, moved around pockets, but looked upfield, found guys downfield. He's been more accurate. Again, he's not Tom Brady, but he's certainly taking significant steps in the right direction. He's making his reads. He's getting into the second and third levels of the defense. So if we've seen him do it against Navy. Would you be able to do that against Clemson or Miami? Would you be able to do that against Ohio State? I hope so. I certainly hope so, and I'm going to root for him to do so if that time comes, if and when. So far, though, he's been impressive. It's the obvious pick, but Riley Leonard, congrats.
I couldn't disagree with that at all for the sake of variety. I'll just take Jeremiah Love again. He averaged 8.5 yards a carry. 2 touchdowns. Just the guy's an animal, man. He's just an animal. But I want to talk about Riley Leonard for a second, Steve. You were talking about, how he's played this year. Do you want to take a guess what his completion percentage is at?
66%.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow.
66% on the year, which is higher than last year at 57%. It's higher than his famous 2022 season at 63.9%, and it's higher than his rookie season. He has currently the highest accuracy, or at least pass completion rate, in his career. What about QBR? Do you remember when we talked about it a couple weeks ago? We compared where Riley Leonard was compared to some of the other quarterbacks in the country, and he was very far behind. But on the season, he's now 77.9, Steve, which is good for 18th in the country. And that combines running and passing stats. So obviously you would expect the running stats to be kind of the bulk of what's leading that metric there. But it was the whole time anyway. And for him to be climbing up the QBR rankings is coming from his pass production. So I'm seeing a lot that I like from Riley Leonard. He had a 90 QBR against Navy, which of course is, it's scaled to 100 for those who aren't familiar. And pretty much anything above 75 is pretty good. If you're above 85, you're talking really, really good, and the elite quarterbacks are constantly in the 90s. So Riley Leonard had a really, really good game, borderline elite game, and I think that can continue. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic. I don't know if we really need to dig too much into this football game because the boys answered the call. They did everything they needed to. They played well. They shut down a dynamic quarterback who was in the Heisman conversation himself. They've got some talented players, but Notre Dame wasn't really burned by them. There's one or two missed assignments, but for a young defense to struggle only once or twice on blown plays against this, not only is it a triple threat offense, it's a modern triple threat offense, which I think is a great idea, by the way. Their current offense will beat a lot of teams, and I really hope to see more of it.
Mm-hmm.
But man, for that defense to only have one or two issues, that's amazing. Your linebackers are young. Your defensive linemen, with the exception of the two interior guys, are young. So I'm happy with it. Leonard Moore got an interception. He's been playing fantastic, man. I got nothing but good things to say. And it's weird with how our vibe was just a couple weeks ago. Very down on this team. And now we're talking about, man, they're exceeding my expectations every week. And I'm picking them to cover every week. And they're making me look silly with the score prediction. So this is a great time, I think, to be a Notre Dame fan. NIU sucks. There's no way around it. But like you said, Steve, it forced us to lock in, and every game since has been a playoff elimination game, and Notre Dame has lived up to it.
Perfectly said. Yep. Backs against the wall. You find out what type of guy that you are from the coaching staff on down. And the coaching staff certainly gets their flowers here as well. Marcus has been fantastic. And I love the fact that not just in this game, but in multiple games, he's not been afraid at all to stick his foot on somebody else's throat, on the other team's throat, run up the score, get those style points. He's very aggressive. He goes for it on fourth down. He calls the fake punts, from 2 weeks back. He's got a set of cojones, and he's got obviously Al Golden for as long as he wants to be the defensive coordinator. Pay him so much fucking money that it's not even funny. And, Mickens, try to lock him in as the DC in waiting because the secondary under him has been fantastic. I mean, these are just talking points we said last week. Just want to reiterate them. And then on the offensive side of the ball, man, things have really kind of jumped up and Leonard's been progressing. So things are working. Things are working in South Bend. From the players are buying in. Riley's coming around and the coaching staff has these guys in a good spot. It's a good time in South Bend at the moment. We'll see if that continues.
It is, and I still need to see Freeman get to a playoff spot, but I'm feeling much, much better about him as the head coach because all those positive things we've continued to see, and the negatives are starting to become less and less frequent, which is very important. You said it best. Fourth down. He's, I think, third in the country, Notre Dame, on going for it on fourth down. I love that. That's the way we need to play football, right? Especially on short downs or in no man's land between, your 45 and their 35, where our kicker can't reach it. I like to see that, and that keeps drives alive and it keeps points on the board. And Steve, something you said earlier, you're wondering if Notre Dame's offensive improvements can translate to a Clemson, to an Ohio State. I feel more confident they can this year than in previous years because running the quarterback is a consistency. That everyone's going to struggle with that dual threat ability, and I think that transfers against every team we'll play. We won't have the same amount of effectiveness against every team, But the ability to run the ball, which has been great this year with the running backs, and with Riley Leonard, I think that should be able to translate against Georgia. You should be able to get first downs, pick up first downs here. That Riley Leonard should be able to score a touchdown or two with his legs. The question, of course, is how much can we mix in some of the deeper stuff. But I don't know if there's anything else to say, man. I think Notre Dame just had a really, really good game, and nobody can complain about this one.
I do have one thing that I did want to address before we move on to kind of the college football landscape, and it is one complaint because, a tiger can't change its stripes after all. Our special teams fucking sucks, man. So Mr. Wagon isn't here to make any sort of defenses. He's on, dad duty and coach duty. Unfortunately, I think he might be out with a season-ending injury in that regard. But yeah, he's not here to defend the special teams, and I'm here to hate on them. They got to step their fucking game up. I mean, there's been some injuries, of course. Mitch Jeter's out. Zach Yoakum stepped in. Punting has been, very hot or cold. The guy's got a hell of a leg, but he came over from Australia. He's learning the game. I don't know how much you have to learn. You just catch the ball and punt it into another fucking atmosphere. Should be it should be the theory, the going theory in my mind. I'm not a special teams coach, but Jesus fucking Christ, figure it out. And then kicking, that was an atrocity. So that's my one complaint. Dylan, anything you want to add before we move on to the college football landscape?
No, I think that's fair. Punting's been inconsistent. It's a fair criticism. And kicking, Jeter's out, so I'm not going to roast them too hard for that. I thought Yoakum's filled in admirably. He's 50%, and he's 2 for 4, I think, on his kicks his last 2 weeks. But yeah, we need that to be a little better. The fakes were good. Coverage has been fine, but it's special teams haven't been special this year. For the audience listening at home, Steve's currently dying. I think he may have to sneeze or choke, but I'll just keep filling the void until he's back.
I'm good. I've just been sick as a dog this week, if that hasn't been apparent with my voice. But on to the college football landscape, just to quickly buzz through the rankings in college football currently. I think after this week, we're due for the first college football playoff ratings?
It has to be soon, man. I'm sick of waiting until November for these rankings to come out.
Quick Google search. Humor me for just a moment. CFP rankings.
In the meantime, I'll tell a Lou Holtz joke. I'm sure many of you have heard this, but when Lou Holtz was doing a pep rally against USC, he asked the Notre Dame student body, "Do you know why these football players go to USC?" Because it's easier to spell than UCLA.
Perfect. And thank you for filling that dead air there. I appreciate it. And it turns out the first rankings come out next Tuesday. So Tuesday, inadvertently, of next week is going to be one of the most important days in all of human history. So that's fun.
All right, because you guys have an election.
Oh yeah. There's that fucking thing. Yeah.
Can I just briefly interject here? We don't do politics, but we can talk
about
a
Canadian. Yeah,
we can talk about what's going on. We just don't really give opinions. But I'm going to be at Notre Dame Stadium for the Florida State game, which is like 5 days after the election. So I don't know if I'm heading into a civil war or if we'll even know who the president is. It's going to be chaos. We got a team from Florida coming up. Notre Dame fans are obviously mixed for their political affiliations. So I'm a little afraid as a Canadian going into Indiana, which might have open carry rules. I'm not sure. It seems like a gun state to me. I'm a little afraid to go to this football game in case there's a civil war breaking out. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Go vote. But keep it peaceful, guys.
Yeah. Don't kill one another. Just
that's for all sides. That's for everybody. There's no. Yeah. We're not picking anything here. We're just, please don't kill me when I'm in your country in 2 weeks.
Fair enough. Yeah. On to the rankings then. So should I go with the AP or the coaches or?
Let's go AP. It's the traditional premier poll.
Fair enough.
The coaches don't give a fuck as much as the media doesn't care. At least they're like. Their names are attached to it. I don't think the coaches are, so I think the coaches just put in whatever they feel like. So I think the AP is a better poll.
All right, fair enough. All right, coming in at number 1 is 8-0 Oregon. Number 2, with one first place vote, Oregon gets every single other one, is Georgia. They're at 6-1. Their only loss was, again, at Alabama, but Alabama's sunk a bit. Then we have number 3, undefeated 7-0, Penn State. Number 4, 6-1, Ohio State. Number 5, undefeated 8-0, Miami. Cowards ducked out of it. Number 6, Texas 7-1. Number 7, Tennessee at 6-1. Notre Dame does come in at number 8 at 7-1. BYU, the number 8 team number 9 team in the nation at 8-0. A&M 7-1. They are ranked number 10. Then we have at number 11 Iowa State. Clemson also tied for number 11, meaning that the number 13 team in the country is Indiana. Then there's Alabama, Boise at 15, LSU 16, K-State at 17, Pitt, Ole Miss, SMU, Army, Washington State, Colorado, Illinois, and Missouri will round out your top 25.
What is Missouri doing on that list?
You're shaking your head at Missouri, and they absolutely do not belong in the top 25. There's just
how does Vanderbilt get dropped but not Missouri out of the top 25? Vanderbilt took Texas A&M within 3 points, and Missouri lost by 3,000 against Alabama. Okay.
I agree. They're not a
Steve,
top 25 team.
Here's the situation. The highest ranked 4 conference champions get an automatic bye no matter where they are ranked. Just the 4 highest conference champions get it. The Power 5 champion that is ranked the highest gets a spot that anywhere is at large. So that's between 5 and 12. You'll assume, let's say Boise State's ranked 15th at the end of the year, they'll become the 12th seed. If they're ranked 10th, they might become the 10th seed. That we still got to figure it out. Here's the thing. We have 3 Big 12 teams who are in contention right now. We've got Kansas State, Iowa State, and BYU. The Big 12, as a conference, as fun as it is not a particularly strong conference. I think the winner will be guaranteed a spot, but I don't know if a one-loss BYU is in, to be honest. I think there will be one Big 12 team represented, I think, for now, and I think any Big 12 team that is 11-1 that isn't a conference champion does not match up with Notre Dame, either on resume, because I will stand on the A&M win as better than anything the Big 12 will have, and we just all know that Notre Dame would slaughter Kansas State on a neutral site. So, Big 12, that's kind of the situation, not too worried. ACC is an interesting one as well, right? Miami is the favorite to win the conference championship, but what if they don't, right? What if Clemson wins it, or what if Pitt wins it? How many ACC at-large seats are taken? And then you got the third factor, how many of the Power 2, the Big 12, the Big 10 and the SEC, how many of their non-champions get in? Looking at it right now, Steve, let's say Oregon is the champion just because they're first right now. Mm-hmm. You have Ohio State, Penn State, and even if Penn State loses, they're still going to be in that top 12 to Ohio State next week. So you got 2 there. Indiana's hanging in there around 3. So you're looking at potentially 3 at-large spots going to the Big 10.
Possibly 4.
Possibly 4.
It could be Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, and
Indiana. Yeah. I think those are the only ones probably left in contention. And the SEC, right? Let's say Georgia wins it, okay? Texas is probably in, or Texas A&M. Good chance one of them's out because they play each other. Alabama's still hanging in there. They'd have to run the table. I don't know if they will. Tennessee's 1 loss. LSU's 2 loss. They're not completely out of it. So you're looking at anywhere between 4 to 6 SEC teams, and there's only 8 at-large spots. So 11-1 Notre Dame should be in. I don't think that'll be a problem. But the thing is, we'll need chaos, Steve. So the long-winded answer and analysis I'm giving here to everybody is cheer for ranked losses. Just as usual. Nothing's ever really changed there. But yeah, Indiana, I will not cheer for them to lose because they're a Cinderella story, but let's pick a different team. Iowa State, we need them to lose, or we should hope for them to lose. Pitt, I like Pitt, but we should hope for them to lose. Clemson, hope for them to lose. Same thing, Tennessee, Alabama. It's the same old, but you're just trying to maximize our chances to get in the event we drop another game. I hope we don't. But that's the scenario right now, Steve, and I think, should we just say, let's say we finish 11-1, we handle our business, and the top 12 shakes out the way it is, I think at this point we are on the inside track for a home field game. I
Agreed.
believe will be
Yep.
5, 6, 7, or 8. I could see 9 or 10. I think having that home game is obviously critically important because you're going to be playing probably a Power 2 team. But then also you kind of want to be in the quadrant where you get a favorable conference champion. Because if you're the 5 seed, you might end up playing the 1 seed if you win your... No, you end up playing the 4 seed. So
Yeah,
being
4
the 5
then
seed...
1.
Right, so that's perfect. The other thing is the 3 seed might be the easiest team to beat. So being the 6th seed as an at-large might be the best path because you'll get BYU or you'll get Miami, beat them, and then you're only playing the 2 team, and the 2 team might be Oregon, right? Who knows yet? There's so many variables, but getting that home game is critically important, and then keeping an eye on who do we want to avoid of the 4 buys, which obviously Big 12, Big 10, and SEC right away. But that's my analysis. I was talking for a while there, Steve. What are your thoughts on the playoff situation?
Yeah, you're exactly correct. Yep, we are on the inside track, and then additionally, the 5 or the 6 are definitely the target seeds. Just as a reminder to everyone, Dylan, I don't know whether or not you covered this, so sorry if I'm being redundant, but Notre Dame, as part of the agreement, the maximum seed that they can get, even if they go 12-0 undefeated, the maximum seed is the number 5 seed. Just because we don't play a conference championship game, but doesn't matter because that means that any year that we are in the top 8, we're guaranteed a home playoff game against a relatively weak opponent that we should beat. That's should is the operative word there. It could be Memphis, it could be Boise State, it could also be kind of one of those weaker teams, like a K-State as an example, just kind of depending, or an Iowa State, or kind of one of the ACC kind of drop offs. So. We would be favored in that first game. If we win that, we move on to the quarterfinal against either the 4 or the 3 seed. Right? Would it be the 4 or 3?
Yes, if we're the 5 seed or the 6 seed, I believe we play the 3 or the 4.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the ACC champion and the Big 12 champion, presumably. And I don't think there's a question there that, at least I feel pretty good against both of those teams, regardless of who comes out of that conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Utah is seemingly kind of out of it. Utah is really the only team that I would be afraid of out of the Big 12, and then the ACC, the only team that I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of Miami. Like Cam Ward is great, but their defense is Swiss cheese. You shut down Cam Ward with our secondary, which is most certainly possible, and it's an intriguing matchup, which I think we're favored.
I think Utah's 3 lost, by the way. No need to fear them anymore. But going into the season, definitely that would have been the team.
In my opinion, the best roster in the Big 12. But now they're pretty much out of it. So the point for me being, whether it's BYU, Iowa State, or K-State, I think we win either of those 3 games. We would be in a quarterfinal game, and very possibly a semifinal game. And I think this is going to just bring me back around to a question that I wanted to posit. Dylan, what if Notre Dame is just really fucking good? And what if, the week after arguably one of the biggest wins in Notre Dame history of the last 35 years, outside of what? Obviously the matchup in 93 against Florida State. Can you name a bigger victory since 1990, the year I was born?
No.
Off the top of our heads, we can't really. Maybe Oklahoma back in 2012. Clemson, yeah. But they're very far and few between. And given the circumstances on the road, because Oklahoma was on the road, but yeah. Going on the road to Kyle Field, hostile territory, every single week that win looks better and better. That's an emotional dump. You put everything into that game emotionally, and the next week, we know what happened. That's the game of football. Football is a game of momentum, as we've talked about. And when you dump everything the week before, I'm not excusing the loss because it was still ridiculous, but just putting it into the context of, if it was easy for those guys to kind of not have their eye on the ball. And with a younger and more inexperienced coach than what we've been used to for the past decade, I think that was certainly a learning moment for Marcus Freeman, teaching his guys how to lock in and kill every single week. Ever since, they have been killing, and they have been locked in, as we've discussed. The quarterback is coming around. The offensive line is holding up. The defense is absolutely elite. We've just discussed the playoff scenarios. We've just discussed how Notre Dame can very feasibly make the semifinals at the very least, and who knows how far beyond we can go, because quite frankly, if we're looking at the top four, Oregon, I think, is beatable. Boise State proved that. Boise State is an inferior opponent that lost to them, but they proved that they can run on. They can be run on, and that they can play tight games. Georgia's obviously still Georgia, and they're phenomenal. Okay, give them their flowers. I've been using that term a lot today. Penn State is still flawed. I don't think they're a runaway team. They're very good, but I don't think they're like light years better. Ohio State has been looking flawed. And then, you move on down. I think the only other team in the top 6 that I would be quote unquote afraid of would be Texas. I don't think there's any of those teams that Notre Dame is a surefire to lose at this point. I would have told you surefire to lose 2-3 weeks ago. I'm feeling a lot better now. And that's why I asked the question, what if Notre Dame is just really fucking good?
I think they are. I think they are really good. Steve, we thought this was a national championship contending team at the start of the season. Should people stay healthy and Leonard kind of reach the level we thought him to be? It didn't look like that for a while because Leonard wasn't at that level. But right now, we're playing at as good of a level as anyone else in the country. Maybe not quite as good as Georgia, but Notre Dame is hot right now. Defense, yeah, there's injuries, and that's my biggest concern. Yes, we're really good, but injuries might be the thing to hold us back. But I think this defense is, by any sort of advanced metric, top 5, if not number 1 in the country. It is an absolute disgusting defense. And offensively, they're getting better and better, and we don't really know what that ceiling is. And when you get into matchups, I think Notre Dame is a nightmare matchup for everyone in the college football playoff. Nobody's going to want to play Notre Dame, and it's very simple. Notre Dame has a good run game, Notre Dame has a really good defense, and Notre Dame has a quarterback that can just throw it or run it and make your life a nightmare. Even if he's not great in the game, situationally, he is hard to defend. Those 3 things make it very difficult to play against. And yeah, we might be a 10-point underdog playing Georgia, but do you think Georgia wants to play against Riley Leonard? Do you think Georgia has a plan to somehow blow out Notre Dame's defense with their offense? I don't see it. I think you're in a dogfight with Notre Dame, regardless of what team you're in, because of those factors. And that's something we haven't really had before. And I feel pretty decent that we can make a somewhat of a playoff run. We're hurt, though. I don't know if we can go all the way. I don't know if we can beat Georgia, but I know we can give Georgia problems. We can give anybody problems on our day. And on our day has been the norm the last few weeks. It's not like we're like taking the best case scenario from earlier in the season and projecting that into the playoff. If we just play the way we're playing, it's going to be difficult to beat us in any setting. So I'm not saying we're winning a national championship, but yeah, I think we are really fucking good. And I think, we got to let the season play out, but I think we can head into that playoff, assuming we get there, with real nasty intention.
Now, there was a certain team full of cheater, scumbags, losers, and total and complete pieces of shit that within the past 12 months did, in fact, I wouldn't say win a national championship, but they were the last team standing at the end of the year. Allegedly. I don't think that team that was the last team standing last year is better than this Notre Dame team this year. And as we saw, they were able to be the last one standing without really a great quarterback who somehow was a first-round pick, but NFL GMs are fucking dumb, as we've learned. I think that you root for some chaos, you root for the right things to happen in the right moments, and things can happen. Things can happen. So, is this me getting my hopes back up? You're goddamn right. I'm doing it again.
But what's the point of being a fan, Steve, if you don't have something to get your hopes up over? At least we
The
cheer.
point is that they've proved that we can get our hopes up. If they didn't
Yes.
prove themselves, then of course, like, we shouldn't. But they've given us the fodder to do so.
And we're lucky we cheer for a team that can reasonably in any year make a run, right? Could you imagine being a fan of Wake Forest? No disrespect to the Wake Forest fans out there, but you don't have the same prospect of expectations for success. And we do, and that's, as much as it's annoying when Notre Dame lets us down, there's a privilege in having that lifestyle as a fan. Like, we have something to look forward to, Steve, so damn it, yes, we should get our hopes up. I'm not going to predict Notre Dame to win a championship. I'll be kind of quiet about, because we have the NIU loss, and that's such an immediate shutdown when you have these conversations. So I'm okay just letting the team on the field make their way as far as they can get, and let that speak for itself, because I'm confident in this team. I really am. I don't know how far they can go, but man, is it an exciting time. Freeman's third year, and it's just going to get better, man. We got some dogs coming down the pipe here in recruiting and on the team developing. I mean, man, Bryce Young is a freshman. Kingston Viliama-Asa is a freshman. Kedron Young and Aeneas Williams are freshmen. Our offensive line is half freshman. It's like Leonard Moore is a freshman. Adon Schuler is a freshman. Steve, this team is loaded with talent. Loaded. And the incoming class is going to have lots of blue chip prospects to kind of add to that as well. So I'm hyped. You got me hyped now.
I didn't mean to do it, but hopefully I got it. I don't know. I panic. I just, there's something about this fucking program, man. Just going back to my Italian roots, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
There is something about this program. You have to be, like, that's Lou Holt's quote, right? Like, for those who like know Notre Dame, no explanation is necessary, but for those who don't, like, no explanation will suffice. You have to get it. You have to get this program. And you guys listening do. We do. We know this is a bit of a cult, but it's our cult, right? This is what we put so much emotional investment into, because we understand this history. We understand who we are and what we're supposed to be and where we should be. And that's what's frustrating, is we're not where we should be. But Steve, this might be the year. And if not, it could still be coming down the pipe, because Marcus Freeman is doing a hell of a job recruiting. And I hope he makes the playoff, so we do not have to have a conversation about another head coach, because that is the expectations. He needs to reach that, and I love him so much that I am really, really want him to get to that, Steve.
Fair enough. And let's appropriate expectations set. The very high likely odds are that Notre Dame will not win a national championship this year. Let's say there's a 99% chance that we don't. Okay, sure, fine. It doesn't mean that there's not something to play for. With all of the freshmen, with all of the young talent, exactly, Dylan, to your point that you've been highlighting, there is plenty of development to be had. And next year we're going to have an open QB competition with our homegrown guys. And we're going to have an offensive line that's going to step up. They're young this year. They're going to be old and experienced next year. Jeremiah Love is going to be in his junior year, his NFL draft year. He's going to have something to prove. We're going to have more experienced receivers. The defense is going to be outrageous yet again, because we know what we can expect. There is absolutely something to play for, even if we don't win it all. Let's just go week by week, and let's see how this season progresses. So I think we can put that in the books in regards to Notre Dame talk. It is the bye week after all. I'm going on a short little mini vacation this week. I have a wedding in Mexico, which perfect timing. Perfect timing. And it's my buddy Connor. He's Irish. He's a Notre Dame fan, and I don't think that it's coincidental that he's getting married on a bye week. So I was very grateful for that. I texted him weeks ago. I was like, dude, I fucking love you for doing what you did. But we still have one more thing that we wanted to discuss in the college football landscape. Dylan, do you want to bring us into this next section?
It depends. Are we picking games or are we playing a game?
Let's pick, actually. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got a little bit too far out ahead of our skis. I'm sorry. Just talking about Notre Dame actually kind of being a good team again.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening hang on, because we're gonna come back to, I think, a really fun segment here at the end. But
Yeah,
yeah, let's
we're
get
gonna
those
close
game.
out with some fun, but let's make you some money first. Let's get into some picks, shall we?
Yep.
All right. Sorry for that. Sorry for getting too excited. First up, we have the 12 o'clock game. Or actually, real quick, do you have an update on the standings or no?
I do, Steve. You went 4-2 on the week. You're now 38-15. I went 3-3. I'm 33-20, which is dead at 67%, which in any year is amazing. But you're just having a heater, dude. You're on a heater. So we still got many weeks to go. I'm not out of it. P Wagon isn't out of it. But I just hope we can all make a little bit of money along the way. Isn't that the fun?
Exactly. First game up this week is arguably the biggest, and that's going to be the 12 o'clock noon game, which, yet again, noon games in the Big Ten, they are absolute bullshit. They have to stop this. There's no reason that this shouldn't be in prime time. It's ridiculous. It's number 4, Ohio State 6-1, going to Happy Valley against number 3, Penn State, undefeated at 7-0. Ohio State is favored by 3.5 points.
Okay, so I don't mean to defend the Big Ten here, but the Big Ten Conference doesn't really have a say over what time this game is played. It is determined by their media rights deal. So Fox is, I believe, the majority owner of the Big Ten Network, and therefore their primary network partner. So they get the majority of first choice picks throughout the year. They have a draft, a lottery system, and Fox takes its best games. So I could already tell you, Michigan, Ohio State will be at big noon. I could have predicted this one at big noon as well. Blame Fox, folks. I don't know why they want a 12 o'clock kickoff, but it is stupid. I agree. Steve, after all the years of Ohio State beating Penn State, they are at home. It'll probably be a whiteout. It should be at night, but still it'll be a noon game. And for the first time in a while, Penn State's ranked ahead of Ohio State. Is this the year James Franklin gets the win against Ohio State? And you know what the answer is, Steve? A big fat no. The Ohio State Buckeyes are going to win this game and cover. I'm sorry, they're too talented, and I do not believe in Penn State. But let me say something. If Penn State wins, they will earn my respect. I think they're a playoff team already, but I do not see them beating the Buckeyes on Saturday.
You had me in the first half, I'm not going to lie. I am actually going to go with Penn State money line here. I'm taking Penn State to win at home. I think that Ohio State is flawed. I think both of these are top 6 teams in the country. But this would be Penn State's first win against Ohio State since, 2016, was it?
I couldn't even tell you. I know it's been a while. And
I'm pretty sure it was 2016.
Far and few between.
Yeah, and maybe there's just something about election cycles that Penn State is really tuned into. After all, the state of Pennsylvania is going to be very important as of next week. So I'm going to go with Penn State on this one. Okay, next up we have number 1 in the country, Oregon. This is a 3:30 game. They're 8-0. They're on the road at the Evil Empire, Michigan, 5-3. Oregon is favored by 14.5 points. Michigan did bounce back last week, did they not? Yep, they did. They did win. So
they beat Michigan State. It was close, though.
They are trending in the right direction. They are on the inside track to actually make a bowl game at this point. Congratulations to them. Very happy for that esteemed established program. Dylan, who do you got?
Well, I take issue with you calling them the Evil Empire. They are no empire, but they are evil.
Fair.
Listen, I think this is a game Michigan can win. I really do. However, their quarterback play is so suspect. I don't know if they can keep up with Oregon offensively. I think they can cause Oregon problems defensively, and playing at the Big House is a big thing. And in the preseason, I picked Michigan to win this game, but after seeing the teams play for 8 weeks, I do not feel good about picking the Wolverines, so I'm going to take the Oregon Ducks, but I will take Michigan to cover. Did you say 14.5?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I am anticipating Michigan being dog shit. And I'm going to take Oregon minus 14.5.
That's fair. That's what I hope happens.
Yeah. That's what I'm picking for, so that way I can root for it. Next up, 7:30 p.m. It's number 10 Texas A&M. They are 7-1. On the road at South Carolina. This game is in Columbia. South Carolina is 4-3. They have their true freshman quarterback. What was it? Jabari Sellers, I believe is his name. He's like 6'5",
Okay.
like 230 pounds. He's quite mobile. He's not the most accurate guy in the world. Reminds me a lot of Cam Newton. So he is dynamic, and dynamic enough that he has this South Carolina team only. But he has it close enough that A&M is only favored by 2.5 points on the road, despite them being a top 10 team. Dylan, who do you have?
This is going to be a tough environment for A&M. They're going to Columbia for a night game. I don't feel good about it. I really don't, because the SEC is weird. A lot of weird things happen in that conference. But I'm going to take Texas A&M, and I'll take the points, but I don't feel great about that at all.
I'm with you. I think this might end up being a 6 to 9 point victory for A&M, so it'll be closer. It's just a very funky line. I think if this was plus minus 6.5, then I might take South Carolina to cover that. But yeah, just given the slim margin, I will go with A&M on that one with you. Next up, sorry for the sniffles. 'Tis the season, as they say. 7:30 p.m. It's Louisville. They're 5-3 on the road at number 11 Clemson. Clemson is 6-1. Clemson is currently favored by 10.5 in Death Valley.
That's interesting because Notre Dame beat Louisville by 7 at home. I think Clemson is a good team, but Clemson, and they've taken care of business, but they haven't really beaten anybody. Florida State, a few other ACC teams. Man, I'm going to take Louisville to cover. I'll take that much, but I'll take Clemson at home to win. But again, not surprised if Louisville gets the job done. That is a good team they got over there with Jeff Brom. I just think Clemson at home. If this game was in Louisville, I would go the other way, but I'll take Clemson, Louisville to cover.
I'm copying you. I'm taking Clemson to win and Louisville to cover. I think that quarterback there, Tyler Shaw or whatever the hell, he's talented, and I think he's going to be able to help them keep it close. And I think Louisville is playing a bit of desperation ball right now. I mean, if they finish out the season, win their remaining 4 games, they'll be 9-3, and certainly at least poking their nose around the ACC, and maybe they can backdoor into an ACC championship game, and then by extension the playoffs. So you can count this effectively as a playoff eliminator for Louisville. I think they'll get up for it, but I do ultimately think Clemson is the better team, and they'll come out on top. So I'm right there with you, Dylan. And then finally, we have a very fun team so far, very unexpected. Undefeated 7-0 Pittsburgh, the number 18 team in the country, is on the road in Dallas to face off against SMU, the Pony Express, the newest ACC member. They are 7-1. SMU Ponies are favored by 7.5 at home.
7.5?
7.5. Let me double check that because that sounds a little weird.
Sounds definitely weird to me. I think that's a pick'em.
Yeah, it's SMU minus 7.5.
Okay, well, I'll tell you now. I'm taking Pitt to cover 7.5. You know what? Give me Pitt. Pitt's been fun. I'll take the Panthers. I'll take the points. I could see SMU winning, but 7.5 seems high to me. SMU's been good, but again, they're not beating great teams. Neither is Pitt. So this will be a really fun one. But yeah, I'll take the Pitt Panthers here.
And I'm once again matching you, my friend. My heart says SMU, but my mind is telling me ride the hot hand with Pittsburgh. I doubted them in the last couple weeks, and I learned my lesson the hard way. They are legitimate, so I will take Pittsburgh money line. I love a plus sign. I'm addicted to them.
Aren't we all? It's better than seeing a negative sign in your bank account.
Yeah, very true. So, if guys follow along, we will post everything on Instagram and on X, formerly Twitter. So that way, if you can track our bets, you can match them, maybe even parlay if you're feeling a little bit frisky. Always bet responsibly. But hey, we're we're hypothetically making money. If you were to bet $10 on every single one of our bets so far this year, you'd be in the green or the black. Doesn't matter. You'd be making money. Dylan, see us into the final section here, buddy.
Well, Steve, we got no opponent preview for this week, so let's preview a different kind of fight. Steve, as men, we tend to think we could fight more than we can probably actually fight in real life. I wonder how many of these mascots can we kick the shit out of. So, Steve, let's walk through the top 25. Just go one at a time here, and let's see if we could beat up that animal or that mascot or whatever the team name is, and see really at the end of the day how many of these teams are worth the name that they are written on.
Fair enough. We'll start with the number one team in the country, the Oregon Ducks.
Dude, I could kick the shit out of a duck. That's not even a question. It's more so how many ducks could I fight? I could fight a human-sized duck. I don't really care. They're not geese, okay? Geese are different. If you've ever been anywhere around a Canadian goose, you should be scared for your life because they just want nothing but chaos. They are the worst animals on this planet, okay? I am not proud of them. I love the moose. I do not care for the geese. A duck is a shittier geese. No problem there. I'll kick the shit of a duck anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one swift kick and I'd snap its neck in half. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Almost made me spit out my water.
It's number 2. We have the Georgia Bulldogs. Can you fight a bulldog?
Listen, it's not a Rottweiler, it's not a pit bull, and I'm not a baby, okay? A bulldog, it's nothing. Again, I could kick it, maybe not very far, but I could do some internal damage there. I would never hurt a dog, but if I had to save my life, bulldog, I'm sorry, I'll kick your ass.
I'm right there with you. Life or death scenario, if I'm forced to fight a dog, if it is a bulldog, their short, stubby-ass legs aren't doing shit. Up next, number 3, it is the Penn State Nittany Lions. Dylan, could you fight a mountain lion?
Okay. Listen, before you guys attack me, I think about this one often, because there are mountain lions and cougars around. I think I could take one. Listen, it's not like a tiger. It's not a lion. It's just it's a fake cat. You know, it's like a lynx, right? It's bigger than a lynx, but I think I could spar with it and hit him with a few jabs, kind of move laterally, kick it in the nuts. You know, if life and death, maybe not for a prize fight, okay? But if I had a baby and I had to protect it from this cougar, Nittany lion. I'm so tempted to make more jokes about different types of predators at Penn State. I can fight it off, I think. If I'm allowed a weapon, forget about it. It's done. Give me an axe, anything. But I that's probably the max of what I think I could take. I understand that sounds crazy, but I don't know, man. Am I allowed a weapon?
Clearly you haven't played Red Dead Redemption because those motherfuckers will come out of nowhere in that game and rip your shit apart.
Okay, he can't sneak up on me. That's part, like, he can do that in real life and he would have me, but I'm talking straight fight. Like, we have our walkout music like it's a boxing match and it's me and a lion in a ring or something. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay. If they can't sneak up on you from behind, then I'm going to make the amendment that I do think I can. Because if I'm face-to-face with the motherfucker, I know what his move is going to be. He's lunging towards my neck. So all you have to do is just avoid that originally. You get behind him, get him in a headlock, snap his neck, we move on. All right.
I love it. As a new dad, I believe you could do that. So
yeah, exactly.
Nobody listening believes us, probably. But I think I believe in it.
Next one's an interesting one. It's the Ohio State Buckeyes.
I could eat a nut. That's nothing. I'm sorry. You got not an intimidating animal or mascot there. I could kick both the nut, which is an inanimate object, and I could kick the shit out of Brutus, their stupid mascot with his stupid head. So yes, Ohio State, I can beat you up. Pretty
straightforward. I'm with you. Next one's an interesting one because it's the Miami Hurricanes. However, it's Sebastian the Ibis. is their mascot. So an ibis is about a 1 foot tall bird. They're very tiny. So which one are we taking here?
I'm going to say yes to both, but hear me out, okay? Hear me out.
Jesus.
The
This
bird...
is a true Canadian talking.
Listen,
Not
it's a
knowing
bird.
hurricanes, yeah.
It's a bird, okay? We could both kick the shit of a bird, all right? A 1-foot bird that isn't a Canadian goose. Look, I can't sit in a Category 5 hurricane without protection and think I could come out. However, Floridians deal with hurricanes all the time, and very few of them die. I will just say, on the average hurricane, given my location, I could find shelter and wait out the storm. I can't fight it, but I can outlast it. And then as for the bird component, no problem there.
Yeah, bird, I'm with you. I mean, I have ibises in my front yard pretty often because I'm in a subtropical climate, so like they're around, and yeah, they could be easily destroyed in seconds. As for the hurricane, I've been in Charleston, South Carolina for 18 months now. I've had one tropical storm. All it did was blow down a little, a tree limb. I got that sucker out in one day. Fuck a bitch-ass hurricane. Up next, we have the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, it's a big cow. That's no problem.
The only thing is they can charge you. So if they're coming head on, that's when things can get a little bit frisky. We're talking a little bit more like rodeo clown type shit.
Yeah. I can avoid that. It's got one move. And from there, I can, like an ape, I could grab a stone and just smash my way through it. It's big. Look, it's big. You would need you need to wrestle with it or have a weapon with you. But look, I'm not gonna die to a cow. That's never gonna happen.
I don't know. I've seen the clips of the running of the bulls in Spain, and they fuck people up. So
okay, that's a bull, though. Like those are what is a longhorn really? Like I see Bevo, and I'm like, you're a bitch when I see Bevo.
Yeah, I guess it's a difference between a bull and a steer, right? Okay, yeah. If we're just going with a pure cow, then you just you run into it real hard. Lower your shoulder. You get that sumbitch on his side. He ain't getting up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there cow tipping up in
I'm sure some people do it. We have cows up here. Milk is something we don't have to import.
All right. Next up is the Tennessee Volunteers. Volunteers being the volunteer army from, I think, the Civil War.
And which side were they on?
The South.
Okay,
but they also have the Bloodhound. So, take your pick.
See, out of just pure pride for not the Confederacy, I would say I should be able to take them. But let's be honest, I do not have the necessary weapon training that they would have. So I'll have to take the L on this one. I think in a firefight I would lose to a volunteer. But the dog, again, no problem.
Yeah, I'm with you. I could take the dog. As for the volunteer, I mean, that you're talking pure Appalachia people who are extraordinarily kind-hearted and awesome, but don't get on their fucking bad side. So yeah, I'll take that L with you. Then we have the Fighting Irish at number 8.
That's just me. So Yeah, I guess a leprechaun, in theory, you should be able to beat up. They're supposed to be small and fairy-like. As for just a drunk Irishman, I mean, that's a regular Saturday. So, yeah, neutral on that one, I guess.
All right, makes sense. The BYU Cougars are basically the same thing as the Nittany Lions, so there's no need to rehash that. Now let's go on to the Texas A&M Aggies. Can you beat up an agricultural worker?
Yes, especially if they go to Texas A&M.
Yep, we might be a cult, but they're a creepier fucking cult.
Well, we're a fun cult.
Iowa State Cyclones.
Like the hurricane, I'm not going to sit in a cyclone and survive it, but I can hide in the basement of one and wait for it to pass over. So I'll just outlast it.
This is one where I think I'm going to admit I would take an L.
Well, if you get sucked into it, you're screwed for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I am just going to assume the worst for me at all times. That's worked out for me the last 34 years of my life. Then we have the Clemson Tigers.
No, I can't fight a tiger. That's not even in the realm of possibility without a weapon.
Pretty straightforward. I'm with you there. Up next, the Indiana Hoosiers. Dylan, can you beat up a random person from the state of Indiana?
Not only can I will prove in 2 weeks that I will, and I will beat someone up from Indiana. No, I won't, of course. But sure, an average Indiana person, I'll do my best. I think I could beat them.
All right, makes sense. I'm right there with you. Then we have the Crimson Tide, which are we going with like a wave or are we going with the elephants?
Man, I don't know if either is good for us because like if it's a tidal wave like a tsunami, no, you just have to outrun it. And if it's an elephant, no, no, I can't kill an elephant without a weapon. So I'll give the Tide that one.
Yep, I agree. And now we have the Boise State Broncos.
No, I don't think I could. That back kick is too dangerous, and I wouldn't see it coming. I think they'd do that thing. Like, how do you kill a horse with your bare hands? I guess you can get on it and try to choke it out.
Exactly, that's the only way you can.
I changed my mind. Horses, you just break their legs, and they die anyway. Like they got a whole circulation systems down there or something. So yeah, easily. Actually, I would just 2-foot it like I'm a shitty soccer player right into the legs. Bye bye Bronco. Leave you for dead.
I'm going to wish you luck on that one. I think a horse would ultimately fuck me up. You did make a great point. You go for the legs, but when they get up on their hind legs, they can fuck you up with their front legs. And then if you try going behind them, good luck because you're already dead.
You just got to alligator roll, man. You just fundamental sound tackling and then twist it at the end. And then, Yeah, but I'm with you. That would be a tough one to fight head on.
We got to learn form tackling from KVA. Up next, LSU Tigers. We've established that we're not beating them. K-State, what are they? The Cougars? Wildcats, Cougars, effectively the same thing as Penn State and BYU.
You audaciously think we'll beat them all.
Yeah. Okay, Pitt Panthers. So Panthers a bit different than.
Yeah. No chance. No chance at all, man. That's a different kind of beast.
Panther will fuck you up. Yep, I agree. Ole Miss Rebels. Are you going to go up against a...
Yeah, because volunteers implies some kind of military training or some kind of training. A rebel implies just some guy who doesn't like that he's not allowed to own people. So I'll kill that guy. No problem. I'm not even American. I'll do that for you guys. That's no problem.
I think it is morally justified, but being someone who now lives in the South, I could tell you, nope, I'm not coming out on top in that fight. I'm sorry, man. They're gonna win. They're gonna fucking win. I'm sorry. That's an L for me. SMU ponies are the same as the Broncos. So we will move on to the Army. What's the Army mascot? Black Knights. Yeah, no. They have armor and they're going to cut me in half with a fucking sword. Yep.
Yeah, not even close.
Wazoo Cougars. Yep, we got that.
How many fucking Cougars play in this sport, man? This is ridiculous.
I don't know.
This is just the top 25.
Yeah. Then we have the Colorado Buffalo.
Yeah, nope, too big. Sorry, can't do it.
Yeah, Buffalo will fuck you up. Can you kick somebody's ass from the state of Illinois?
Sure.
Yep. And then we end with the Missouri Tigers, which we have established that's an L. So that
tell you what, if my flight into Chicago doesn't go the way it should, I might have to beat the shit out of someone from Illinois. So, I got two potential real life scenarios coming up, and then I may as well just go down to the South while I'm there. No, Steve, that was awesome.
It'll be like Sherman's March to the Sea.
There's very little that is super, super dangerous there. I mean, you got your big cats. Buffalo's a big one, but I think at the end of the day, we can take.
Yeah, exactly. At the very least, we're putting up a fight. I think about half of them we can pretty much dominate, or at least hold our own. But the other half, I think, are just simply too large and powerful. So that's the Four Horsemen in a fist fight against the top 25 mascots. We covered a lot today. Dylan, Notre Dame football, we're in a good spot. We're in a bye week. We've talked about everything ad nauseum, but nobody panic. Get your hopes up, but only a little bit. Be cautious. I'm heading to Mexico for a wedding, a little bit of R&R. First weekend away from my kid. That's going to be weird. But also exciting. Yeah, because I can finally not have any responsibilities for 4 days. So that'll be a welcome change. I'll let you see us out, pal.
Well, thank you for listening as always. Rate, review, 5 stars wherever possible. Share, reach out. We enjoy hearing from you. So at Horseman Pod on Twitter, also on Instagram, anywhere you find your podcasts. Refer us to a friend. Come to our tailgate. Timmy Flynn and myself will be there for Florida State. Details to be confirmed, but there'll be food, there'll be drinks, and I'm happy to meet you guys if you make it to the game. So we'll see you next week for Florida State preview. And in the meantime, go Irish.
Go Irish.